Hello everybody, my name is Zen, and patch 9 for Baldur's Gate 3 is live. I'm so excited about this patch because it adds the Paladin, one of my favorite classes in all of Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm really excited about the implementation of it, mostly. We'll get to that in a moment, but outside of this patch being awesome and adding a bunch to the game, we also now have an official release date from the Game Awards. It was announced that Baldur's Gate 3 will be releasing in August of 2023. Whether or not it makes that date is still up for debate. We'll see. When you never know, things might get pushed back, or sometimes things are moved forward. Very unlikely, but it's tentative for August. And I'm looking forward to that because that's actually going to be coming around a perfect time of the year for me to start the series and then play through the entirety of the game. Finally, not that the entirety of the game is available right now, but I stopped my playthrough of the game where I did, which was not even at the end of the first little bit here in the early access, but I did that because I knew that this is going to be a game that I play all the way through, and I didn't want to spoil the entirety of like this first act. So I just decided I'm going to wait until the game comes out. But every time there's an update, I go in, I check things out, I see how it's going, right? Because it's early access. It's slowly improving over time, and man, has it improved. So let's talk about the Paladin, because like I said, it's one of my favorite D&D classes. I love playing as a Paladin, but my rub here is that the Oath of Vengeance is not in. I love the Oath of Vengeance. I think it's so much fun to play, and it is one of the highest damage outputs that you could do in Dungeons and Dragons, and I really like that. That's kind of like a weird thing that I like doing. It's just like being a tank that hits really hard. Like, you're hard to hit because you're wearing all your heavy armor. Sure, you don't sneak very well, but you're hard to hit, and you just absolutely destroy things when you play as a Vengeance Paladin. Now, that said, normal Paladins also can do that as well, and this is due to their main mechanic, which is Smite. It basically allows you to expend a spell slot to do a crazy additional amount of damage on an attack. Now, the attack has to hit in... So, if you're playing D&D, some people rule... Some dungeon masters rule that you can choose to smite after you actually hit, and some say that no, that's not you do it after, or you do it before. You declare that you're going to smite, and then if you miss, then you miss. But that's not that fun as a player, because you're expending a spell slot and you may just miss, and honestly, spell slots for Paladins are fairly contested. You've got a lot of really cool spells that you're able to do, and if you're using them on a smite, it's because you really want to just like burn something down, and it's nice when you can guarantee that as an option. In Baldur's Gate 3, it is a spell slot, and you add it to your attack. So if you can boost your attack percentage the most that you can, then that's probably going to be the best for you. But my oh my, does Smite do a bunch of damage, as it should. It's like the perfect like Paladin power fantasy of just absolutely destroying things. And better yet, Smite is also really nice when you like want to do a bunch of like holy damage to an undead creature and whatnot. And Paladins are really good at dealing with undead and demons and whatnot. It's their fantasy. It's what they do, and it's so much fun to play. Outside of the Paladin, I really like barbarians. Can you tell I like hitting things with weapons? It's just fun. But I also really like the monks. Again, it's just hitting things. But for the most part, the monk is not in the game yet. I don't know how that's going to be implemented, but the Paladin is finally here, and I'm really excited about that, like we said. A bunch of new spells have been added to the game because of the Paladin being added. So, obviously Divine Smite, but you also got things that are not necessarily strictly Paladin, but also have quite a lot going on for other classes. So as far as like spells, you've got things like Counterspell, for instance, which is really nice, be able to use Counterspell on creatures or casters and stuff like that. It's really nice because casters tend to be kind of powerful in the Larian games, whether it's a Divinity or Baldur's Gate 3. It kind of makes sense that you add the counter spell in because it is a D&D thing, and it works really well. From what I have played in my limited access to the spell on a higher level save, counter spell is pretty sweet. But then you have things like all the Paladin stuff, like Divine Smite, I think Divine Sense is on there, Divine Favor, Divine basically anything. Control Undead, which is pretty sick as a option. Animate Undead, like Beacon of Hope. Fireball's now in the game. Fireball is just like a classic spell. You got Haste, which is awesome. Holy Rebuke. Lay on Hands, of course, because you're a paladin, so you get that as one of your class traits. Lay on Hands is great, and the way they implement it is great. You click on the spell, it's like, hey, what do you want to do with your Lay on Hands? Are you trying to cure something, or are you trying to heal somebody? Are you trying to heal someone a lot? Because then it uses 2 slots of the Lay on Hands. Because the way Lay on Hands works in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is that it is like an amount, an amount equal to, and you use a pool of your Lay on Hands to heal. So like, let's say your pool was 10, like you could heal up to 10, but you could split that. You could heal somebody for 1 and then just save the other 9, and then heal somebody for 1 and then save the other 8, right? But with the way that it's implemented in here, you have just a resource to it, and you just burn through it as you go. So like, for instance, at level 1, or it might be level 2, maybe it's level, yeah, it's level 2, you get it. So, or maybe it was level, I don't remember. It has been earlier today that I was playing this. I'm not quite sure how they implemented it, but what the thing is, you have like 3 at level 2, 3 slots to be able to use. So you can either heal 1 like large heal, which is about 8 HP, and then 1 little heal, which is 4, or you can cure, I think, twice. So it's just kind of cool how that ends up working. Or maybe it's 1 point for cure. I don't remember. Like I said, it's implemented different than how the rule set of D&D actually implements it, but it works well for this being a digital game. So a bunch of other spells that are added, like Dwagar Animate Dead, which is interesting. Boar Rage, Zombie Slam, Giant Spider Entomb. Like, there's just a bunch of things on the list of new stuff that have been added that your average player jumping into early access isn't going to see until they put a bunch of time into. And also that is because the level cap has been increased to 5. That may not sound like a lot, but it does take a bit of time to get to level 5 in Baldur's Gate 3. Not an infinite amount of time, but enough that you're going to be putting some serious hours into the game. They updated the UI quite a lot. It's fairly nice. The way that they display rolls has been updated. Like, so when you make a dice roll, it's the way that it was in the previous patch, but it's just a sexier UI now. It's like the way you add the proficiency bonuses and the way that it shows you where your bonuses are coming from. It's like you get a +2 because you have some spell on you, and then you got a +2 because you're proficient in this particular thing. It's just the way that it works, and it works pretty well. Now, the thing with this patch is, yeah, it adds the Paladin. Yes, it adds a bunch of spells, and yes, it upgrades or updates the level cap. But we're still missing the monk. So I'm expecting that sometime in the spring, maybe. And then we're obviously missing the rest of the game. Now, the fear that I have is a really weird one, but maybe one that other people who are into D&D share, which is that they are basing a lot of this game on the rule set of 5th edition. And this game has been in development for quite a bit of time now, so it's completely understandable that the game is not going to be able to keep up with the incredibly quick moving landscape as that D&D is in right this moment. What I mean by this is they've been putting out these, if you're not following D&D, I'm going to give you a bit of a rundown. They've been putting out these essentially packets, and they're called the Unearthed Arcana, and it's revisions to the game and new stuff being added to the game, because they're prepping for, in a couple years time, they're going to be releasing new versions of the player's handbook and rule books and whatnot. And they're updating a whole lot of stuff, including configuring classes and rebalancing classes and adding new stuff that just isn't there before, or going into the core rules of specific things and updating them and changing them. And a lot of that stuff that they've added, like for instance, they've done some stuff from clerics, and they've made clerics just generally more enjoyable to play, even though cleric was like one of the most popular classes, just because it's a healing class and it also has a high damage potential. So it's a very popular class in just random groups of friends playing D&D. But the way that they've changed it recently means that it's a little less finicky and it's more streamlined, but it's also just better. Like, it's really, really cool. And I, as a person who has enjoyed the 5th edition era of Dungeons and Dragons, I jump into Baldur's Gate 3 and I go, this is awesome. This is familiar. There's a lot of familiarity here. And the way that the rule set works is very similar to 5th edition. So if you're even familiar in the slightest with 5th edition, you jump into the game, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, I can translate what's going on to make this a digital product very easily, because I have this understanding of how the actual game is played. But, you got to remember that D&D is a mass product kind of thing. It's Divinity from Larian was a great game, but it's kind of niche. When it comes to the Dungeons and Dragons brand, there's going to be a lot more people jumping into this game. And the game doesn't come out till, essentially the last part of 2023. And that's getting really close to that 2024 thing. We're going to have a bunch of other Unearthed Arcanas coming out where people are able to, play the new stuff coming to D&D. And my fear is that they're going to get in here and be like, ooh, it's got the old rules for this. Ooh, I don't like that. Now, thankfully, a lot of the Larian games are fairly moddable, so people will probably get in on like the Steam Workshop stuff and fix a lot of that and update a bunch of it to the new rule set stuff. And I would bet you by the time the actual new D&D rulebook comes out, you have a lot of this kind of changed around to your preference, but obviously unnecessary to play with it because the game is being developed in its current state. So if you don't want to play with any of the new D&D stuff, I'm sure that you don't necessarily need to. It's just one of those weird situations where the timing has been kind of strange for this. This game has been announced and released under early access for quite some time. And we've gotten to the point where it's taken so long to release to the public that we're now getting a new updated 5th edition rule set. And it's like, it's just kind of awkward. So my fear is that it's going to draw people away rather than bring people in, because this is a genre that is weird. It's a genre of game that is weird. It is the classic RPGs from back in the day. And honestly, a lot of people either haven't ever played one of these, or they look at it and they kind of go, oh, this is interesting looking, but seems kind of a little overwhelming, or I don't quite understand what's going on, so I feel like I'm a little out of my depths, or wow, this looks outdated. I've heard that term a lot, because it's a top-down isometric turn-based combat thing. It's unless you've played something like that, then you're missing out on the genre a bit. So yeah, I kind of fear it's like an unrelated fear to the actual game being good, because the game is great and the new Paladin stuff is awesome, and I'm super excited for the game and I can't wait for it to come out. I'm just a little afraid that in the next year you're gonna have enough people who are playing the new stuff from D&D that they're gonna kind of be pushed away from this stuff, on top of the wall that is there to scale for the CRPG people who've never played one before. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a weird fear, but I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and it could just be that I'm absolutely overthinking it, and that's probably the case. But let me know if you guys are excited about the Paladin. It's probably going to be the class that I end up playing for the series that I do. I love the Paladin so much. I just can't wait. It's possible also that I may just play my own playthrough as a Paladin and maybe do like a monk or something. Speaking of, are you excited for the monk? Because it's inevitable at this point. Got, I think, everything else. So you are just really waiting for the monk to fill out the entire class lineup. And outside of that, you know, we're just leading into launch. And I'm super excited for the launch of this game. I'm really excited to do the series. Let me know if you're going to be jumping in at launch, if you've been playing any of the early access stuff, or are you, just kind of waiting until after the launch where the game maybe gets a little bit of balance updates and whatnot for the last half of the game because it's not currently playable by people. So, they're relying on their own QA for that kind of stuff. But thank you for watching. If you're interested in seeing more stuff like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There'll be a whole series in August when it comes out, and I shall see you all next time.